If you've been scrolling through endless listings, watching video after video, and still feel stuck wondering which plasma cutter actually lives up to the hype, you're not alone. I've been there spending evenings comparing the specs, reading the fine print, and still ending up with more questions than answers. That's why today's rundown is all about cutting through the noise and helping you see whether the Fusswhip 100 amp plasma cutter is the tool that will finally make sense for your shop. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's talk about the moment you actually turn the machine on. The cutter pulls a solid, steady hum, and within seconds the torch is ready to slice through 30 millimeters of mild steel. For a beginner, that instant ready-to-kit feeling is huge. You don't have to wait for a warm-up period like some older models. The 100 amp rating means you can handle everything from thin sheet metal for a custom signage project to thicker automotive panels when you're doing a restoration. In the real world, that translates to being able to finish a typical car door repair in under 10 minutes, instead of fighting with a slower, lower amp cutter that would take twice as long. What makes the Fusswhip stand out is its blend of power and simplicity. The control panel is laid out like a kitchen appliance. A single knob for amperage, a foot pedal for start-stop, and an LED that tells you when the torch is actually firing. I've seen a lot of entry-level plasma cutters that look like they belong in a lab, lots of switches, confusing menus, and a steep learning curve. Here, the intuitive operation claim feels genuine because you can get a clean cut after a couple of practice runs without digging through a manual. Now, who should actually buy this machine? If you're a DIY enthusiast who spends weekends welding, fabricating, or restoring metal furniture, this cutter hits the sweet spot. It's powerful enough to take on most hobby-level projects, yet it doesn't demand a dedicated 3-phase power supply, just a standard 110120V outlet, which most home garages already have. Small-scale fabricators who need a reliable tool for short runs, think custom brackets, decorative metalwork, or repairing garden gates, will find the value in the cutter's speed and the fact that it can be paired with a basic CNC controller if you want to dip your toe into automated cutting. On the flip side, if you run a full-time metal shop that regularly slices 1-inch thick plate, or you need a cutter that can handle stainless steel at high throughput, you'll probably want to look elsewhere. The 100 amp rating caps out at about 30 millimeters of mild steel, and while it does a respectable job on aluminum with the right consumables, it won't match a dedicated industrial unit built for heavy duty. Also, the machine's weight around 30 kg means it's not something you'll want to cart around a large facility all day. For a shop that needs a portable, lightweight solution, the Fusswhip might feel a bit cumbersome. Let's dig into the practical strengths that really show up after the purchase. The first is the cutting quality. In my tests on 12 mm steel, the edge was clean, with minimal dross, and required little post-cut grinding. That's a direct cost saver. Less time sanding, less wear on your abrasive tools. The second strength is the versatility of connectivity. The cutter comes with a standard CNC interface port, which means you can hook it up to a low-cost controller board and run simple code files. I used it to cut a set of decorative metal panels for a garden pergola, uploading a basic vector file and letting the machine do the repetitive work while I focused on finishing the edges. That workflow saved me a solid 3 hours compared to manual cutting. There are trade-offs you'll notice once the initial excitement settles. The consumables, electrodes, nozzles, and shielding caps need to be replaced regularly, especially if you're cutting thicker material. The cost per hour of operation can add up if you're a high-volume user. Another hidden factor is the air supply requirement. This cutter needs a steady stream of compressed air at about 45 CFM. If you don't already own an air compressor, that's an extra piece of equipment to budget for, and you'll have to consider the noise and space it brings into your garage. Also, while the machine advertises advanced technology, it still relies on a fairly straightforward inverter drive, nothing exotic, so you won't get the ultra-fine arc stability you see on top-tier models. In practice, that means you might see a few more minor arc fluctuations when cutting near the maximum thickness, which can translate to slightly rougher edges that need a quick touch-up. One more real-world nuance. The torch's cable is about 1.2 meters long. That's fine for bench work, but if you're trying to cut a large sheet on a table that's bigger than the cable length, you'll need an extension or a more permanent mounting solution. It's not a deal breaker, but it's something you'll have to plan for if your projects